Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Today, we have none other than Will Lopez, who grew Advisorfi, an amazing accounting brand, an amazing office, an amazing firm. And he's also developed a personal brand for himself, amazing on YouTube, which has positioned himself into a lot of what he's experiencing now, which is something that, it's not to be taken for granted, the position that Will here has put himself in. So we'll talk about a little bit about that. And we also have Xerocon coming up this week. So this Sunday release, that means I'm literally flying to San Diego tomorrow morning, but if you're watching this now, and Will be there as well, right? Will, let's just start it, man. When are you flying in? Xerocon, tell us what's up. This is the...
Bro, it's a rough life flying into San Diego, man, for Xerocon. Super rough. No, man, this is going to be like my 5th Xerocon event that I've been to. I started going when Xerocon was back in like Denver. So it was like Xerocon Denver, then San Francisco, Austin, Atlanta. Now it's San Diego. I mean, every time I go, it just gets better and better and better because what's happening, especially in the accounting community. So when you're thinking about like owning an accounting firm, being inside of a community, you kind of really don't get the sense that we're all supposed to be buddy-buddy with each other. It's like you're over there, I'm over here, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. But when Xero kind of broke ground in the States, I mean, they really did an amazing job of just trying to build this unity together. So now when I go to these conferences, I basically see all my friends. And friends from all over the country that I get to see and hang out with for a few days. I mean, it's going to be a stellar event. I mean, San Diego is obviously not a bad spot to have an event at. It's going to be a fun time, to say the least.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about Gusto, right? I know you had a new announcement this year, so feel free, update us. And by the way, guys, if you want to learn much more about Will here, I think we've got a bunch of new things to talk about, but I'm actually linking his interview he did with Jose Zavala below. So check that out if you want to go back, and look at some of the more accounting things he's talking about with Jose. But update us, Will.
Yeah, so I mean, long story short, I've owned Advisorfi, which is my practice that was based out of South Florida for, I would say 6 or 7 years. Like you said earlier, I built a personal brand for myself only because it was a way of me doing what I love to do, which is kind of give consulting advice, just help SMBs out, right? Help small business owners, even help other practitioners kind of figure out the firm life thing. And just through that firm building, that brand building, I ended up just kind of getting myself into the community more and more, which I became more passionate about because I feel like for the first time ever, in just the history of business and accounting, there's been a pivot in a mindset that when someone like me runs a firm and uses resources like Xero, uses resources like Gusto, it's a lot more than just using the resource. It's like this deep partnership that you get yourself into that it's so integral into who you are, what your firm life is, and even the ideology that you ascribe to, that you end up saying, you know what, this is the resource I want to utilize because they sync up with the way I think and they sync up with the way I want to take care of my clients, that together we're going to try to push the industry forward. And so just being a part of that, kind of watching it unfold the past 6-7 years has just been mind boggling. The stuff that accountants can get themselves into now, it was like the wild, wild west 6 or 7 years ago online. Right. So if you wanted to build a cloud firm online 7 years ago, they were like, what is that? But now you have a lot of mentors out there. You have a lot of people who are champions of the industry trying to keep the ball moving forward. So, my recent thing was, a lot of the ideology that I ascribe to, Gusto ascribes to. So I ended up becoming Gusto's head of the accountant community. So helping empower the accountant channel, or at least the accountant community as a whole, through Gusto's platform, right? So, and I think
congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, man. Thanks. And I think that's where I would honestly say the new era of firm ownership will be, is when you get platforms like Gusto, whose overall mission is to create a world where work empowers a better life, right? So that's their mission, to create a world where work empowers a better life. Mm-hmm. When a firm like ascribes to that and says, well, I want to do the same thing, not only for myself, but for the clients around me, it's a big deal. And it's such a new idea as far as an accounting firm ascribing to something like that and really trying to progress the industry forward, really try to progress what it means to be an advisor forward, that I felt like for me, it was like a momentum thing, right? It's either now or never. We got to keep the ball rolling. And at some point, once we get it to the top of the hill, either my generation or the generation after, it's just going to be all downhill for them. So, but for those that are trying to get it up the hill, it's just going to be a lot of work to try to bring the community together, break the stigmas of the industry, and try to give the next gen of accountants a fighting chance at trying to do something new.
Yeah, and I think, people like you are suited for that job, right? and speaking of being suited, I even I made sure I had a t-shirt at the very least on for Will, because I heard what you said about suits on Jose's podcast, which is linked below. And I've got to say this, Will, I have just always wearing suits since I've been in business. Like, I popped up first day to the accounting club in school with a suit and a briefcase, and they were like, who is this guy? Right. The president, and other students immediately didn't like me. You know what I mean? And so, what stigmas do you think are holding firms back from really, the way I think of it? I mean, I think a lot about communication, right? I think a lot about what people are posting, not posting. Should I post this? Should I post that? You have some amazing content, and you're super creative, by the way. So I'm glad to see a lot of that. But I still think, accountants have ways to go, like you said, and the accounting industry has ways to go in terms of breaking a lot of stigmas. So what are you looking at as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, I mean, just because I'm an accountant by heart, like I'm an entrepreneur first, accountant by trade, love business, love entrepreneurship. I mean, like my parents were entrepreneurs, had many businesses growing up. Like that's what I grew up around, and I knew inevitably I would get myself into business, but what exactly I didn't know. And I feel like, at least from an accountant's perspective or a small business owner's perspective, one of the big stigmas I think that kind of held me back a little bit was just the concern that just because I didn't approach accountancy in a traditional manner or with a traditional mindset, that potentially that may have held me back as far as growth was concerned, or that potentially maybe my clients would devalue my opinion because of that, because I didn't look the part or sound the part or approached them with certain advice the way we've all been conditioned the past 100 years as far as like how accountants approach business owners. I felt like as a business owner myself, that potentially could have played negatively in my favor. But it was everything but. In fact, it was so refreshing for business owners, for the clients that actually used Advisorfi as a service provider, and we did all things for them. It was so refreshing for them to actually be approached in a manner that they understood and they related to, rather than in a manner that I thought they would like, right? So when I built Advisorfi, it was about building an experience that really made the accounting or the accountant client or the accountant customer experience just a lot better, because I think relationally, accounting professionals have a really hard time building real, true relationship with clients. And I think there's a lot of stigmas that play into that, because we think we have to, keep things very traditional or keep things very professional. And what does that even mean?
What does that even mean?
Right. What does that even mean? But for almost everyone unequivocally who uses Advisorfi, it was more like, listen, I just need help. Can you just make the content relatable to me? Can you just break it down for me in a way that I can just understand, and maybe just kind of get some simple takeaways, right? And so for me, that was just a resounding echo that said, you know what? I think the way accounts normally run the firms really isn't conducive to actually helping the business owner, because we're kind of throwing hurdles in front of them that they inadvertently have to jump over in order to get to some point of understanding, right? And so that's why I create the content the way I do. That's why I approach our clients the way we do. And that's why I think at Gusto, like they saw that, they see kind of like where the industry is going, and they want to kind of double down, triple down on that idea to say, you know what, just the underlying mentality of business ownership and the underlying stigmas that have been there are kind of no longer there. And it's just a matter of breaking through that and kind of like plowing the way for the rest of everyone.
No, thank you for that. I agree. And guys, if you haven't looked at his stuff, I mean, it's linked below. So just look at his stuff. Think about, you know, how he relates what you see in the content below to what he just said. That's super, you know, insightful. And I think, you know, every accountant can take something away with that, come back and use it to boost their own career, right? And speaking of boosting careers, this is you know, a Xerocon episode, right? So let's talk about some of the cool things going on at Xerocon. What events are you excited about?
Yeah, so I mean, for anyone who's never been to Xerocon, I mean, it really is, I would say, the litmus test conference of like where the industry is. And I've been to a lot of conferences. I mean, look, like there are like accounting conferences galore that you can get yourself into.
Okay, tell us. Yep.
Yeah, but there's really only one that really you can walk into and totally walk out of and say, my mind is blown. Like, where is the industry going? So at Xerocon, like day zero, which is what Xero calls day number one, they'll have like a pre-con session. And so what they do is they do these full day deep dives into certain ideas and certain concepts in order for practitioners to like learn how to scale their business or verticalize, right, or get themselves into a nice niche, and how do you scale that niche. And so day zero generally is just a jam-packed day of like true boots on the ground work of like trying to figure out how you can incorporate kind of like the next wave of accountancy in your firm. That night, I think they'll have their welcome reception, which is always amazing, where all the vendors will be. So you're going to see people like Gusto. I'll be there. I mean, you'll see people like Bill.com and all these other competitors out there, these app providers. And what's even more amazing is that you'll find like the founders of the apps will be at Xerocon, because Xerocon is that close of a community. The founders of the apps will be there. So like Guy Pearson from Practice Ignition, he has his app that's obviously blanketed the United States and Australia, the UK, but he's literally flying in from Australia and will be like hanging out with all of us there at Xerocon. And he's like the founder. You know, so like I met Guy at Xerocon Denver, and we were like on the dance floor, like, you know, throwing it down. And so it's just cool. I mean, it's just such a tight knit group of partners, of app companies that all of them kind of like in sync really want to try to progress the narrative that accountancy can really be done differently, and not only done differently, but to the benefit of your clients, and the benefit of the industry, to the benefit of yourself, that kind of thing. And then you'll get into day one, bunch of awesome speakers, great events at night. So a lot of the vendors will like throw little parties and stuff like that at night. So it's a pretty much 24/7 social event. And then the last day, Xerocon will do all their speaking events, and then they have the wrap party, which you do not want to miss. Oh yeah, like the wrap party is where the party's at.
That sounds awesome.
I mean, they'll bring in DJs, they'll bring in great dance crews, and then pretty much everyone just kind of hits the floor. Everyone's having a good time, great time of like socializing, and not really talking business, but just kind of getting to know each other, right? Like we talk business a lot, and we talk business enough that there's really not like a place to actually be like, yo, Jose, you know, what's going on? Or yo, Juan, you know, how's life going? So Xero does a really good job of trying to
LinkedIn message or like get on a call sometime. But yeah, everything you just said seems super beneficial. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is your first Xerocon, right?
Yeah, first.
Oh man, Xerocon. That's it. It's over.
It's over.
You're gonna be hooked for life, bro. You never want to leave.
Love it.
Yeah, a couple of friends in my friends in the industry, we call it Xerocon land. You know, like you go to Xerocon land and you just don't ever want to leave.
Nice. I mean, yeah, I feel, you know, knowing me, I'm probably gonna wish like it went on for another week. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're gonna have withdrawals afterwards. No worries.
there you go. There you go. Got to get my fix. And hey, here's a topic I want to bring to light, just because I've seen it. I've been looking at Zero's marketing material, things like that, right? One thing I've seen with Xero marketing their software, marketing their brand, is there's some comments of accountants, and they could be, you know, just not looking that deep into it, right? But they actually, you know, they'll leave a little comment on Xero stuff. Oh, why did y'all take out payroll or something like that, right? So then how does Gusto fit into Xero's software infrastructure, right? Talk a little bit about that. Educate these accountants that are doubters, make them believers.
So obviously Xero had its own payroll solution, right? So like I've been using Xero for 5 or 6 years as a practitioner myself. We were a very Xero-centric firm. And so Gusto has been around for about 6 years. And like I said, founded with that overarching mission to try to like just make life easier. So when Xero kind of decided that, you know, what they wanted to do was kind of stay inside the core product and kind of fixate on that, they realized that payroll wasn't one of those things, and that Gusto was a much stronger app partner when it came to payroll procurement, right? So and that's kind of like the idea that Xero brought into the United States. I give full credit to Xero about the focus of the industry to say, look, Xero's about like core accounting. Let's just make core accounting really amazing and let all the other players be really good at what they do. So Gusto is extremely amazing at being what we would call like the people platform, right? Like serving all things people, you know, payroll, benefits, HR, whatever it is that, you know, whatever it takes to run the people of the organization. That's what Gusto's thing is. Xero's thing, total accounting, double ledger, right? Just core accounting. So, you know, last year they announced the deep partnership between Xero and Gusto, where like the Gusto experience will be injected inside the Xero platform. And so now all people who use Xero for their businesses or their practices can actually have a much more enjoyable experience with payroll, with benefits, with rolling things out that you couldn't roll out before with just Xero payroll, because Xero payroll didn't offer you benefits, right? Xero payroll didn't offer you, to procure, let's say, a 401k plan. So it was just kind of self-serve payroll, which for a lot of people they were very happy with. But that's the general struggle with payroll. Is a lot of the solutions that are out there break apart this idea that payroll's just got to be in this one silo, and then trying to like help people out has to be in this other silo. So if you want to roll out benefits, you know, the payroll platform will create this hurdle for a business owner like myself to say, I want to like offer benefits to my employees, or I want to like throw in a 401k plan for my employees. So what Gusto did was basically to bring those walls down and say, you know what, we want like full people service offering where if you bring in an employee, we want to support that employee entirely and holistically, right? And so and Xero noticed that, recognized that, and said, you know what we're offering just isn't cutting it for the people who are using it. So let's just like form a deeper relationship with Gusto, who's kind of like reimagining payroll life and reimagining what it means to like have employees. And that's pretty much like the ground that's being broken, which is quite honestly, dude, I've been in accounting for like 15 years. And I mean, to say payroll is enjoyable in the same sentence is not two things you put together, right? So it's like things are enjoyable, period. Hey, let's talk about payroll. Like you just don't throw enjoyability and payroll in the same sentence. But oddly enough, and amazingly enough, Gusto has just done an incredible job where people who run payroll for themselves, or practitioners like me that help support business owners, or even run payroll for myself and my team, we can genuinely say, wow, it's really enjoyable to run payroll, because, you know, we've been living under this regime of the old school payroll platforms for like 50 plus years. And they aren't budging for my experience. So, they got their thing going on, I got my thing going on, and it's just this, they're on their side, I'm on my side. And so Gusto basically came in and said, yo, let's open the doors, bring the party in, and let's just make this thing a little more enjoyable.
That's very cool. Love it. I think, like you said, it's super smart for Xero to go ahead and see which apps, which companies are focused on other specific problems, right, in the accounting function, in the financial function, and then go ahead and say, hey, Gusto has it down. Let's just partner with them. I think that's smart. I think that's the way a lot of firms and actual businesses now are moving, even SMBs partnering with each other, right? Jose talks about it being collaborative. I call it collaborative versus the competitive frame, even though, it's fun to be competitive. I'm very competitive, but when it comes down to it, come on, man, what are you going to do? Not talk to anyone? Go to Xerocon and not talk to the other firm owners? Come on. Okay. What do you have? 4 minutes here? Yeah, 4 minutes. Okay. So here is my last question, or it's not even a question. It's just, bring us to light on, the thing you have been obsessed with lately. What have you been obsessed with lately? Go.
So, the thing that I've been obsessed with lately is really trying to help the industry, I think, rethink how to communicate tough accounting concepts in an easy, relatable way. Like there's just, and that's how I run my channel. That's how I run just my personal life. That's how I run my advice. That's how I teach my teams. Is the things that I'm personally super obsessed with is for the longest time, when someone like me talks, people don't get it, right? So for me, it was like, we need to break through this arena where what I'm saying is so convoluted to the people who are listening and trusting the advice that we need to somehow break through that and make it easier for them to digest. So, and I know you're totally into marketing, and so am I. I love marketing. Marketing is my jam. And so the question really becomes, how can I give great advice, whether being with Gusto, heading their accountant community, or just running a practice? How can I give great advice that's absolutely understandable and practical at the same time, right? So we can talk all day about theory in the sky and potentials and hypotheticals, but for the majority of people, that's just, I got other worries on my plate, right? I got 99 problems and that ain't one. So it becomes difficult for the people who are hearing it. So one of my biggest, I feel, passions at Gusto is to actually bring the accountant community together and say, look, for the longest time, when you use a resource, this has been the experience, but let's try to communicate a different idea that when you use something like Gusto, it's a lot more than just using a resource. You're injecting this app into your firm life, so much so that if you were to actually pull it out, the firm would take 2 steps back. And that would be a detriment to your client's experience, or your customers' experiences, right? And so we want to partner together in a very easy to understand, relatable way that helps you progress and helps the industry as a whole progress.
That's amazing, Will. Well, that's definitely something I'll be, thinking about, and definitely excited to meet you at Xerocon. But, I think we should make some content at Xerocon. So that'll be coming out, guys.
Thank you so much for just this opportunity to chat, man. It's super exciting to see people like yourself, just creating awesome content like this, which, obviously you're touching my heartstrings here, because this is what I love to do. But thank you again for just the opportunity to get in front of your audience. And I can't wait to meet you in a few days, bro, at Xerocon.
Thank you very much, Will. Really appreciate your time.
All right, man. See ya.